Hopefully you know that one.
I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing. I will sing. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord. And with my mouth will I make known thy faithfulness, thy faithfulness. And with my mouth will I make known thy faithfulness to all generations. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing. I will sing. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord.
Any favorites?
Judith? Psalms 19. This one?
Yeah.
The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold. Neither also than honey, and the honeycomb. The statutes of the Lord are right, inducing the heart. The commandments of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey, and the honeycomb. Fear of the Lord is clean. Deborah? Isaiah 41.
Well, Isaiah 41? Oh, this one. I will remember. Okay. This one.
I will open rivers in high places, and fountain thy God. I will strengthen thee. I will help thee. I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Behold, all their insolence.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought. So Hebrews 8:10 says, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their heart and I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people." So Sharon and I sing this song, contemplate on these words.
That you created me to be, and I know the only way that I can grow is for you to come inside and take control.
So write them on my heart, seal them in my mind. The beauty of your law and grace combined. Remind me just how lovely your commands are, and write them on the tablets of my heart. Your law reflects your goodness, the cross reveals your grace. Love's the motivation behind your perfect ways, your perfect ways. So write them on my heart, seal them in my mind. The beauty of your law and grace combined. Remind me just how lovely your commandments are, and write them on the tablets of my heart. So write them on my heart.
Also, I appreciate so much the song service before that. Beautiful way to conclude and enter into a new week. Amen? It's an understatement to say that this weekend has been a blessing, at least for me anyway. I appreciate so much Dr. Brandt and Dr. Chadwick coming to our little corner of Arkansas. And, you know, it may seem kind of out of the way, and it's not a great big university, but I want to tell you, this is get mics for good. Okay, you've got a mic. Come on out.
Thank you. Maybe we should have Dr. Chadwick answer that. Destroyed in the first one, and it wasn't anymore. And you know that Lassie must not have been there until the fifth one. But you've lived there, and you know that Lassie was there all the time. So how could the evidence have been so misleading? Well, you start digging in the mud, and you figure out that there was one little thing. The fifth flood took a little different.
Sea monsters still being alive today are credible. I've looked into quite a few of them. I haven't looked into all, but then I haven't looked into Bigfoot either. So.
Presentations that assumptions rule, and so biases are what kind of influence someone's looking at the data and what conclusions they come to. And so in your personal interactions with evolutionists, how useful has the raw data been to convince them to believe in creation or get them to start considering that there's a God?
Well, let me answer that by the experience of one of my graduate students. He's a creationist. He asked me, he said, tell me the best points, the best arguments to win an argument about evolution. And I told him none. That you're taking the wrong approach. You don't win arguments. You don't really accomplish anything by winning arguments. You need to first become their friend. You become their friend, and then if they start asking questions...
That's been a real challenge because in paleontology, I have gone to this meetings of the Society of Vertebrate Paleontologists every year for the last 20 years. For the first 10 years, nobody would even talk to me. They all knew I was a creationist. Just my being there was a witness without me saying anything. And I would give talks every year on our research. Well, after about 10 years, the people for the first 10 years started coming up and talking to me and asking questions and asking how I'm doing and so on. But it took 10 years to just get to the point where they would even have something to listen to me. I'm ready to give an answer to anyone that asks. I have had paleontologists, world-class paleontologists in my laboratory, and I have witnessed to them. I'll tell you one story, if you don't mind listening. I had the staff of the museum at Houston, the Houston Museum of Science, come down to see what we were doing because we were so far ahead of the crowd. Paleontology meeting in Salt Lake City last year. Pete Larson and Bob Bacher. Bob Bacher is probably the most famous dinosaur paleontologist in the world. And we were out in the hallway. And by the way, Bob Bacher, whenever he sees me, he says, "There's my creationist friend, Art Chadwick." So he tells lots of people. But we were having a conversation about religion, about Christianity and Christ in the hallway of this meeting of vertebrate paleontologists with people from all over the world. And that you can do that sometimes if God opens the way.
Kind of the prerequisite, if you're dealing with scientists, you need to be doing high quality science, doing the very best you can, so they'll respect you.
Okay. So, how hard is it being a creationist? Like, how hard is it being a creationist in the, outer world-ish?
How hard is it? Well, believing the Bible, for one, first place, gives us an advantage because we have a better understanding of Earth history, a more correct understanding of Earth history. To apply that, it's easy when we're out working by ourselves doing research. When you're dealing with people who are skeptical of you, then you never know what's going to happen. You just be ready to trust the Lord and have Him help you know what to say at the right time.
I'll tell you how hard it is when you write a paper that's worthy of being published and you send it off to a journal and they reject it without even editing it because you're a creationist. That's how hard it is. And when you get a paper accepted, you know it's by the grace of God. You know that you're dependent upon Him. And Leonard can tell you a story about our probably most famous paper, the one in Geology magazine, how that got accepted.
Yeah, well, we studied fossil whales in Peru for about a decade and found that the usual belief is the sediment these whales are in, which accumulated just a department was at a little session where one of these NSF people was telling us how it all works. And to a place like that, you have to send in your research proposal, your grant proposal. They review it, send it back. Then the next year you can send it in again. You have to go through at least 4 of these before they'll even look at it carefully. And then your chances of getting funded are about 7%. So, especially if they know you're a creationist, the chances are 0. So those sources don't work. And so we have to look for other sources, and in fact, the church's Faith and Science Council who has helped us a lot, and the Geoscience Research Institute.
Yeah, there are sources of funding, but they're parochial. They're not from the government.
Pursuing a career in creation science, what would your recommendation be as far as what majors he should pursue and what graduate degrees he should be thinking? Not only put him in a position to be a strong witness for God.
You want to start that? Well, first, you need to do what you're in love with. You need to love what you're doing in your work. So don't pick a field that you don't like, just in order to do this. You need to like what you're doing. But then it's not easy to answer the rest of it. Now, Art Chadwick, he figured he's going to do that, so he got a degree in molecular biology. Then realized, well, molecular biology is all in favor of creation, so that's not where the problems are. And so, actually, he and I both started out as biologists and retrained in geology. Geology and paleontology is where the most challenges are. And if you can really like that, go into that. Now, how will it go? How to school? Well, it depends. I know of people who've been kicked out of graduate programs because they were creationists. Program, they had faculty who were not quite. And
what does Neanderthal mean? Or Neanderthal?
Neanderthal? Yeah. Okay. What is a Neanderthal? Well, Neanderthal is a certain race of fossil people. And they were been described as primitive and all that, but they're really probably just people. We had a student where I taught at La Sierra years ago who looked exactly like a Neanderthal. big.
Was 2001 or something like that. So anyway, she's been there for years. She had to take time out for her graduate studies. But we welcome students who'd like to get academic credit. But if you want to see what dinosaurs are, that's a good place to go. Now, back to your question. What are dinosaurs? Dinosaurs are creatures that I believe God created. They represent whole ecosystems that God decided not to take into the ark a class. There was a class, a very large animal before the flood that God did not see fit to bring into the ark because bad, but because man, in his weakened condition after the flood, wouldn't be able to get along with these animals. You imagine a T-Rex laying 25 eggs in a nest once or twice a year, and world. But that doesn't mean it didn't exist. And I don't know what the definition of death is. Is killing an ant death? Is a bacterium, killing a bacterium death? I don't know the answer to those questions, and nobody else does either. But I'm sure that God will have a world in which death does not reign like it does.
Well, was the earth itself here before? Well, it could have been. We don't know for sure, but we think it was. This means you think everything happened in our creation week. Young life means we know that life is young, but we don't know about the rest. Does that answer it?
Yes, so we're clear on young life, but the other is?
Just prepare yourself. Now, I don't know what he said, but I don't remember. But so I suppose they prepared themselves. Well, there was an experimental drug that was being tested on animals. It was could not be used on people. But once in a while, if somebody was going to die anyway, they'd give them some of this.
During that first year, I was in my French class, and I saw this man down in the front sitting next to a girl. So I made sure the next day I was sitting down there next to them. And as time went on, we would talk to one another, and once the girl would be sitting next to me, and then the guy, and so there was no relationship there at that level. But I was becoming friends with this guy, and he had this book on his notebook, and it said in heaven, and came down to this earth, and the fall of man, and the rising again through Jesus, and that whole story suddenly made sense. Nobody else has that except Seventh-day Adventists. What an amazing privilege we have to be a testimony to him. And so then I went on, and I went into science. I went to the University of Miami, and I went to La Sierra College first time.
Who will try to tell you, well, you guys are just naive. You don't be afraid of them. Just be when you have opportunity, and don't let them.
I have one more question.
I don't have to go till 8 in the morning, so.
Here's my question. When do you guys retire, and what are you doing after retirement? No.
What I'm doing now.
Oh, you didn't catch the hint, did you?
Yeah.
And to be strong when they meet people who try to tell them they're going the wrong way. But you let your word always be their guide. Confidence. And we look forward to meeting every one of them in heaven. And we thank you for this day we've been able to spend together.